So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and Samsung actually wowed us all with their new Tab S8 series line, where they dropped these iPad Pro killers, these iPad Pro competitors. Finally, somebody that can give Apple a run for its money on the tablet market side, because Apple has been dominating the tablet market for a very, very long time. And I think Apple's been resting on their laurels, because since the 2018 iPad Pro, the innovation has gone down, 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 down. The one that I'm most interested in is the Ultra model. It's that new 14.7-inch display. It looks super sleek, super thin. And what we're going to do today is actually react to MKBHD's video reviewing that tablet. Because, he sees everything. He's been using that 2018 iPad Pro for a very long time. And for his uses, I just kind of want to see what his thoughts are and things like that. So without further ado, let's react to this video. And I'm going to give my thoughts throughout the video. And then let me know in the comments if I should actually pick up this S8 Ultra and review it and compare it to my beautiful iPad Pro. But let's get into MKBHD's video right now. Okay, everybody, so let's get right into this reaction. As you guys can see, I haven't seen it yet. I actually watched like the first 15 seconds and then thought to myself, hey, let's watch this together and react to it in real time, because I want to see what this S8 Ultra is going to be all about and if it can really replace the iPad Pro for me. Because again, it's more so about the Apple ecosystem than it is the actual physical hardware and what it can do. So let's see exactly what's going on with this video. Leave a comment down below. Are you guys, 1x speed, 1.5x speed? We're going to do 1x speed to start, but let's see it.
Hey, what's up? MKBHD here. And this is the best Android tablet out right now.
First off, look at how big that thing is in his hands. Like, I know MKBHD is probably like 6'1", 6'2". I've seen pictures of him. He's pretty tall. He's a professional athlete. He's probably got big hands. This thing is huge. I think it's like 14.7 inches.
It looks like it's from the future or something. Like, if you show this to someone 15 years ago, they would think it's impossible. Like, it's this.
So that's how I felt with the 2018 iPad Pro. I remember unboxing and thinking, like, that's it. We're in the future now. We finally have a slab of glass that is, uniform across the entire body with the uniform bezels, no home button. So that's what I'm seeing.
Possibly thin, 1.6 pound, powerful media machine with speakers that somehow fill a room, a massive battery, and an entire desktop computer interface inside.
5.5 millimeters is so small.
I mean, it's
also, let's full screen this thing.
So thin, you'd swear you could just snap it in half super easily, which I'm not going to try it, but someone keep this thing away from Zach. So this is the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. So yes, there is a Galaxy Tab S8 and a Tab S8 Plus, both of them far more reasonable, far less expensive, and most importantly, smaller. But you know what? There's a real interest in huge tablets like this, mega tablets, because there is an actual benefit to tablets that are this big. I would know, because I've been using this one. And the benefits of this...
It's true. For all the people that think the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is too big, I mean, it's too big in some scenarios, in some situations where it's like maybe you're on your lap and you just have the tablet or something like that. But again, when you have such a big tablet, it turns into a computer mostly. Like, you guys know that I have it on the Magic Keyboard at all times. I'm using it at a desk 90% of the time. It's very rare that I just grab my iPad, sit on the couch, and just start surfing or viewing content. Honestly, that's what the iPad mini is for, right? It's for content consumption, versus the iPad Pro, for me, is a workhorse.
Nearly 15-inch screen are for media watching, gaming, multitasking, and of course the huge canvas for the stylus. They're all very real. There are also some real drawbacks though. So if you are one of the many people who have been tweeting at me asking about this thing, wondering if it's a legit iPad Pro alternative, well, this is everything you need to know. So really, the number one standout piece of this tablet is the top-notch display. Sorry, I had to. We'll get there. But the screen is just awesome. And there's a bunch of things.
I mean, I see the notch there, and honestly, they probably couldn't fit it in the bezel. Either that, or they wanted to have a sense of what is on the top and what's on the bottom, like what's upside down versus right side up and things like that. But again, it's really small, very minimal, and it looks like it's a lot less of a notch than any iPhone.
That combined to make it probably the most impressive I've ever seen in a tablet. Number one is just, of course, the sheer size of it. 14.6 inches diagonally, which definitely suits the Ultra name. And it's got these thin symmetrical bezels all the way around, aside from the dual cameras.
It's a gorgeous piece of hardware, guys. Like, this thing is a gorgeous piece of hardware. And I would definitely take a larger iPad Pro, Apple.
Now, we're working with a 16:10 aspect ratio at 2960 by 1848 resolution, which sounds really high. In person, it's not the sharpest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, shout out Colin and Samir over there. I see him in his, his most relevant, Colin and Samir.
It's so huge, so it checks out to about 240 ppi, and if you get close enough, with this pixel arrangement, you can actually start to see the soft edges of some text and icons and things like that. But it's definitely not a problem at all for normal viewing distances. And then it's OLED. So I think this is the largest OLED touchscreen I've ever used. We all know about the mini LED displays in some laptops and even the iPad Pro with their tons of local dimming zones, but this is a full-size, basically laptop-sized screen where every individual pixel lights itself. So you're getting those pitch black, inky blacks, you're getting an incredible contrast ratio, and watching videos that take advantage of it.
So that's interesting because, again, the biggest comparison in screen technology between the iPad Pro and then the S8 Ultra has to be the screen technology, right? He mentioned OLED, so you have some very, very deep blacks, probably, the actual blacks, and then you have the actual ability to go with individual pixels that light up depending on what needs to be shown. Versus mini LED, mini LED is amazing, and honestly, it's probably one of the biggest selling points for this 2021 M1 iPad Pro, but it's a little bit different. Like, they're both very high quality, it's just a different technology, right? So with mini LED, there's like localized dimming zones versus having each individual pixel change colors, which is kind of the same idea, but they both have their positives and their negatives.
Are very impressive. There's also an optical fingerprint reader underneath the display on the right-hand side. The only thing really that's not world-class about this display, honestly, is that it's not LTPO. It's just 120 hertz all the time. And the max brightness, it maxes out at 380 nits, which is actually totally reasonable inside, but it's not actually...
No, M1 iPad Pro maxes out, I think, at 1,000 nits if you're in HDR, and normally it's around 600 to 700 nits.
Doing much if you go out in the sun, if you're the type of person who
so brightness on the iPad Pro wins.
So that's just something to keep in mind. Just for context, the M1 iPad Pro gets up to 600 nits, and the S22 Ultra, the phone I just reviewed, gets up to 1,750 nits. That's a phone you use outside. So let's talk about the notch then, right? So huge display. Up at the top in the middle, there's this little tiny notch with 2 cameras in it. That's 2 12-megapixel 4K webcams.
I'll give it to Samsung. Like, this is where I want the selfie camera on the iPad Pro. Like, I don't like it how it's on the left-hand side because I'm in landscape mode 99.9% of the time with the iPad Pro. So having it having the camera in portrait orientation just isn't beneficial, especially with video chatting and meetings. I'm constantly looking over to my left, and then even with center stage doesn't help that much. It's a cool added bonus, but center stage doesn't really move it physically in landscape mode to the top of the iPad.
One ultra wide. They're both too big to fit in the thin bezels that they fitted all the way around the tablet, so it punches in a little bit. They've put this little notch up here. It's tiny. It's way smaller than the iPhone's notch. And
also, MKBHD is in Kearney. I am literally like 5 minutes away from him. So spam his comments for me to jump over to the studio. That'd be so cool.
Display that's way bigger. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. Use the screen for 3 seconds and it disappears to your eye and you forget about it. Now, is there a hilarious irony that this is the same company that made these commercials making fun of the notch every chance they got, and now they're the first to put a notch?
Like, that's wild. Like, it's crazy how much hate there was with the notch, and now look at every flagship phone. For the most part, I guess aside from the new Samsung series, but like, everybody's got a notch now. It's wild.
Tablet? Yeah, absolutely. That's really funny. But I don't actually mind it here. What I will say is they did put them in the right place, which is on the horizontal long side of the board, sometimes in landscape. This one feels pretty ridiculous holding it vertical, and I think Samsung knows it's going to be horizontal a lot with this.
It almost looks like a legal pad size paper. If you guys have seen like legal paper, I think it's like 8.5 by 14 versus 8.5 by 11. That's what this looks like.
Ratio. And so they put the webcam on the top, and the fingerprint reader over there on the side is easily reachable with your thumb. It's great. And then Dave 2D said something really interesting, really smart in his video, which is we don't actually usually hold these huge tablets while we're using them. Like, sometimes you do, sure, maybe you're leaning
exactly
back,
what I was saying.
Watching a video,
like, you don't hold it.
Something out real quick. But actually, most of the time we're using the tablet, we're sitting it down somewhere. It's like propped up or it's in a folio case. I don't think my iPad Pro has left its folio case in like a year, just because I prop it up all the time. And so there is a book cover case available for the S8 Ultra, but it costs $350. So there's your kickstand, get to prop it up, watch stuff. But this plus the keyboard.
You can't really be upset about that price point because, again, the Magic Keyboard with the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is also $350, right? So you're getting a keyboard, you're getting the back plate, you're getting another way to put your S Pen to charge and things like that, which is another implementation. They should have just adopted whatever Apple did in terms of magnetically charging your pen. Like, having it in the back like that, I don't know. It's almost like Apple's Magic Mouse charging situation. We have to plug it in on the bottom, or Apple's Gen 1 Apple Pencil, where it's an inconvenient spot to charge your pencil.
$350. So I've been using this total at least $1,450 package for about a week.
Kind of looks like a Microsoft Surface.
Honestly, it's great. The performance and animations have been consistent. It's amazing for media consumption, YouTube, Netflix, games. That is not a surprise. What's interesting is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in here, it turns out it's actually underclocked a little bit. This actually benchmarks lower than phones running the same chip, but I'm telling you, that's because a phone is 8 millimeters thick and it can actually fit a new cooling solution for this hot new chip.
So here it's kind of like a wash in terms of comparing to the iPad Pro, because maybe they do throttle it down, or they probably do because of how thin it is and what MKBHD is saying, because it needs to stay at least somewhat cool. But then, so from a hardware standpoint, Samsung is holding back what it can do, but then Apple is holding back what the iPad Pro can do with its freaking software, the iPadOS 15, which is not what we want. We want something more than iPadOS 15.
This tablet is too thin and can't fit that. So this tablet will get a little bit warm and underclock a little bit. So then the battery life is okay. So it has a surprisingly large 11 heavy day, which is a bit more than I just have a feeling if you're spending this much on a tablet convertible thing.
So from a battery life standpoint, you guys know how I am with the iPad Pro. I'm always in the beta program, and battery life is not amazing, especially if you leave Apple's native applications. So I would assume that the S8, especially brand new compared to my 1-year-old, or I don't even know how old this is now, maybe 9-month-old iPad Pro, iPad Pro is not going to do well on a battery test.
You're going to want to actually get a lot of use out of it. Android tablet. So that means it has all of the pros and cons of every other Android tablet, meaning there's still no Instagram app that scales properly. My to-do list app, TickTick, doesn't really take advantage of the whole screen. SoundCloud doesn't work. There's lots of apps that don't look amazing on this huge screen because that's the way it is with Android tablets. And that's on the
just like Instagram for iPhone or Instagram for iPad.
Tablet thing. But you know what? There's one way you could say is maybe a way around it, and that is Samsung's DeX. So DeX is Samsung's desktop UI that's built into a lot of their devices. So if you were to plug into a keyboard and a monitor, or in this case, the book cover keyboard, and hit the shortcut key, it switches you into DeX mode.
See, this is cool. This is freaking awesome. Like, Samsung DeX is perfect because it seems to be some sort of like Chromebook version of an operating system. It's not like full Windows. It's not a full powerhouse operating system, but clearly you can get a lot of stuff done. So this is what I'm imagining for iPadOS. Like, I don't want macOS on the iPad. I don't want macOS to take over iPadOS. I want iPadOS to have its own form of floating windows and like professional multitasking and things like that.
A Chromebook. So you've got
so
a
Apple can take some notes from Samsung
you
DeX.
had in tablet mode, plus a windowed UI now that lets you multitask and
windowed
move things
UI.
around. You can do file management and treat it a lot
That's
more
amazing.
like a real computer, or at least the Chromebook.
Like, Apple, let me do this. Let me do this. Like, I don't want to have to use something like shift screen.
If you are trying to turn it into your primary computer, you can also change the opacity of Windows for some reason. It's great. It's definitely not perfect though. There's plenty of apps that don't play well with the scaling. The whole system still has the same problem too that the iPad has, which is it's very top heavy. All of the weight is in the tablet, and it's genuinely difficult to use it on your lap like a normal laptop.
Honestly, the Magic Keyboard does help a lot.
It's clearly better than the iPad's attempt at being a computer. It does a lot of things better. It does the floating window support way better than the iPad ever has. It has a micro SD card slot, which the iPad has never had.
Micro SD.
And it also has the cameras horizontally in the right place and in much better quality than the iPad. So for video calls or recording videos with the front-facing cameras, these cameras are actually really good. The ultra-wide camera even has auto framing, although it's not nearly as responsive or smooth as the iPad Pro, and it cuts down to 1080p in this mode, but at least it looks like you're looking at the person.
It's a little wonky with this like center stage feature type thing, but again, he's right. Like, the cameras are in the right orientation, so it's always going to look better than the iPad Pro.
You're talking to on a Zoom call. And then last but not least, drawing stuff. Now, I'm not even going to pretend to be an artist who can take advantage
You and me both, my man.
between this and the Apple Pencil versus others, but here are some things that I definitely did notice. So number one, this pen still charges on the back of the tablet here in only this specific orientation.
Again, very strange.
Kind of easy to scrape off and get knocked off if you move around too much, which is unfortunate. But what's funny is they did make a case, this book cover case, and you can see it has a little indentation here. So if you
That little divot in there. I don't know, it just looks kind of weird. It feels like it's not optimized.
align everything just right, so it's charging.
Like, I feel like a $1 trillion company like Samsung could do something a little bit better.
The other thing is it actually does now attach magnetically to the top.
Okay.
But it doesn't charge there. So that's a good place to leave it temporarily,
Okay.
I guess, if you're going back and forth between using it and not using it. But yeah, if it doesn't charge there, don't forget about it. At least you have the option. And number two, this pen is actually included with this.
I heard that. Now this pencil right here is $130
Urge to play around with it and try stuff.
versus with Samsung, it's included right in there, which is awesome.
The features pop up and just make themselves known whenever you pull the tablet off of the back of the thing. But, you know, it's really good at just drawing and sketching and things like that. The palm rejection with these tiny bezels is good enough
There you
that
go,
I don't have
VR,
to think
baby.
about it. And it has lightning quick, basically real-time 2.8 millisecond response times that make it feel like real paper. Remote
2.8 milliseconds. I know Apple's at 9 milliseconds. Now again, I don't know what that does from an eye test, but hey, the closer we get to zero latency, the better. So Samsung, you're doing something.
controlled air actions are still here. Samsung Notes is as powerful as ever with the handwriting recognition, and Pen Up is also included for, you know, more digital drawing type of stuff. And it's good. I'll defer to some actual digital artists to make the call on whether it's actually better than the larger iPad Pro. But it's got all this space, so it's got this huge quad speaker setup, Dolby Atmos support, very loud, not quite as full and bassy as the iPad Pro, but easily fills a room.
Probably because the iPad Pro is a little thicker. So, I mean, the iPad Pro speakers are still one of the best things I've ever seen. It's insane. Even if you go down to the iPad mini, they're still amazing speakers.
For watching movies and videos and things like that, really good speaker setup. So if it sounds like I like this tablet a lot, it's because I do. I really like this. I think this is the best Android tablet out right now, and it's even going to be getting better. They said they were going to add, they're working on adding LumaFusion to the Galaxy Store, which is that video editing app on tablets, which could make it even more powerful. So then, do I recommend it? Well, you got to know what you want, and if you are looking for a tablet that actually fits the Ultra name, this is the first one that actually does it. The huge screen is kind of unrivaled in any other tablet, and then it's so capable with DeX and with all this other stuff they've built in that it's actually genuinely one of the most versatile computers you can get. So that's been it. Thanks for watching.
Interesting. So he's calling it a computer. He's saying that this Samsung tablet is doing a much better job at being a computer than the iPad is, which I probably agree, purely because of Samsung DeX, right? It's got to be purely because of Samsung DeX. If Apple gives me some sort of competitor, to Samsung DeX, then it could be a totally different story. Now, Apple's doing universal control, which really changes how you view the iPad again, but it's just a little bit weird, a little bit strange, but this video was awesome. I mean, he makes me want to try it out. Leave a comment down below if I should pick one up, should compare to the iPad Pro, go in depth with it, maybe use it for a week exclusively to see if I can get everything done that I would on the iPad Pro. But shout out to MKBHD. Hey man, if you ever end up getting to this video, if you ever see this part of the video, I would love to stop by the studio. That'd be so cool. Because I'm only really like 5-10 minutes away. But let's finish up the video, go to the normal view. Big shout out to MKBHD, the absolute GOAT of the tech community. So that's pretty much going to do it for this reaction video, guys. Like you saw, this S8 Ultra looks pretty compelling, right? I mean, if I wasn't locked into this Apple ecosystem, I'd probably jump on it immediately. And depending on what everybody thinks in the comments, if I should pick one up, then I'll pick one up and review it for you guys and really play with it and put it through its paces. Because things like having Samsung DeX in there is a real game changer. But my biggest hope is this is going to show Apple like, hey, there's finally some competition in the market. There's a use case for having floating windows. There's a use case for having a desktop class browsing experience. And they're going to hopefully put it on like iPadOS 16 or 17 or iPadOS 30 whenever that comes out. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. MKBHD is the man. All props to him. He's one of the biggest inspos for this channel and probably every other tech channel in the YouTube space. But that's going to do it. If you made it to the very end, leave a little dolphin right here. And until next time, everybody, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We got some more iPad content coming. And maybe that S8 Ultra might be coming our way, but let me know in the comments below if I should.